Welcome, everybody. Today's topic is interstitial cystitis. Uh, we have a special guest today. Should be popping up any moment. Until then, before I was going to have a live schedule 4 days a week, but that fell through. I just can't keep the schedule. So I've been relaunching my YouTube channel. And let's see, is that you're now live? Okay. I've been relaunching my YouTube. I started Friday. So every day till January, you will have a video from me. And I'm still going to go live, but it'll be kind of spontaneous type of thing. So I'll kind of be like, okay, I'm going live in 10 minutes. I think that's the best way I can do it, right? I'll try to pick one day of the week that I can stick to, because what happens is I get overwhelmed and I can't stick to the schedule. And then forget it, right? And then it's just like I'm chasing my tail. Actually, my tail's chasing me. We don't want that, right? So, well, maybe we do want that. I don't know. It's good to be back on. Today we'll be talking about interstitial cystitis. Love the walk and talks. Thanks, Vern. Yeah, I have a couple more scheduled out, and I'm going to keep filming them. It's going to be winter, so that'll be a nice change of scenery, right? They're calming, and you get a little golden nugget here and there. So we will wait for her. Until then, we'll talk about a little bit what I dealt with. I had interstitial cystitis, pelvic floor pain. I had pain in my testicles. Yes, thank you, Liz. That's true. Testicle pain. It felt like Mike Tyson was punching them constantly. Spinal, right? And then I thought it was other things. I thought it was I had a kidney stone, because they told me, well, it could be a kidney stone. The MRI and it was a CT scan said everything was clear. But I went on a goose chase with all kinds of things. But then anyway, so then I started feeling like I had to pee all the time. And then when I peed, I'd have the sensation there was still pee in there, right? And there probably was still pee in there, right? It just would never empty fully because it was just so tight. Things would just be like trapped and not able to flow out emptily. I just gotta keep checking to see if she's there, and then right, and then I have pain in my bladder constantly. I thought, like, I'd go down here and I'd push right above my pelvic line, and I'd push up, and it'd just be like somebody stabbing me there, and then it'd radiate to my anus, and it felt like somebody put a Rambo knife in my asshole, and I would feel it in my belly button. Where else? And I would have tight pelvic floor where I couldn't poop. My poop was like this thin. And eventually I had to put my finger in there and open it up just to get the poop out. It was like a wall was there. And I had my tailbone would hurt. And I would have felt like I'd had this magma going through my rectum, like swooshing back and forth. It was lots of inflammation and heat and pain, right? All kinds of weird sensations. And while I was having this pelvic floor pain, right, it felt like something was getting damaged, like a muscle was like breaking, like going, like things were just busting, and I would need some sort of surgery. It felt like that all the time, right? So I started doing these stretches. I went to this pelvic floor clinic place, and this lady put her finger in my bum gently. She said, "Yeah, you're tight. You have a pelvic floor that is tight." And they show me pictures of my pelvic floor and how, the muscles, and I was walking by a room, and then there's this guy putting this thing in somebody. Well, I didn't see what they put in, but I could hear like a buzzing sound, like bzz, 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 bzz. I guess they use it to retrain the pelvic floor, or they think there's a misconnection. And then you realize there is no misconnection. That's horseshit. So I told her I was doing brain retraining for it. And she's like, "Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about that. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing." And then right. So then eventually it went away. I did some stretches to cope. There's a couple of pelvic floor stretches that work pretty good. But then, eventually I just had to trust the mind body work every day, never missed a day. I allowed the pain to be there, and it went when it was ready to go, and it did. Right? And it, by itself, all the pain went away. But it seemed like something that was very difficult to believe that it will ever go away. It felt like this is something that I think I'm going to be stuck with for the rest of my life. For some reason, I think this is a special case. Right? So, but no, it went away, and it would come back, and it would go away, come back, go away, come back, like 1,000 times, right? But it had to, because every time it came back, it was an opportunity for me to apply what I learned and to relearn what I need to apply. So I just did a swap there. You see, it's a swap there. You see the swap there. Hi, Joe Young, Joy Young, 7804. You were born in 78, so was I. I agree. The walk and talk has been very relaxed and nice to see the fall colors. Ooh. Well, I'm going to have to keep doing them. I'm going to probably post those during the weekends just because people are usually busy on the weekends. So it's, still for those that are just chilling, it gives them something to chill to. So let's see. Let's see if she is ready to join us. Hopefully we're able. Oh, and there we go. Welcome.
Hello. What's up?
Whitney. This is Whitney. Everybody. I'll hide the chat over here. Maybe I'll go back and forth. So Whitney, tell us a little bit about yourself. You've been going through a long journey with the mind body space. You've dealt with today we're talking about pelvic floor pain. And tell us a little bit about yourself. We're gonna make actually a video tomorrow about the medication withdrawal. I'm sure that's going to be a big topic. So we're going to get into that tomorrow and release that maybe in a couple of weeks. So we're going to save that for then. But today, pelvic floor pain, give us a little history about that too.
Sure. Thanks for pulling me on here like super on the fly. But this is fun.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe in January, maybe I'll do a show. I was like, let's go live now. And you're like, fuck it, let's do it. All right.
Yeah, I've been in the mind body space for a while, years, probably 7 or 8 years. I've known about mind body medicine. And my OG symptom was pelvic pain, interstitial cystitis, and I overcame it. It took, I don't know, maybe 1.5 years, 2 years for me. Once I understood what was happening, because these things take time, and I kind of had a whole other perfect storm that involved medications and things like that, which we can get into that another time. But yes, I work in this space too. Like I help experts and professionals with their mind body businesses. I'm a designer and creative director, so I work with a lot of top experts. I understand this space really well. I've probably had every symptom imperative under the sun at this point. So,
some of the people you work with, drop some names.
Am I legally allowed to do that? I don't know. I have to check my contracts, but yeah, I've worked with big ones. Let's just say that for now, and maybe later on I will share some more about that. But
and you did the Curable app.
Yeah,
right? You did some work with them. That's a good app. I always like their stuff.
I did a lot of work with them too. They were actually the first, my entry point into mind body work was the Curable app. That was how I discovered mind body, what was happening with me, and that was kind of what put me on the path to recovery.
Let's talk about the symptoms that you had with the interstitial pain. Give us if you can remember. I just gave a rundown of what I went through like before you came on.
Yeah.
Let's do the lady side of things, because the male side's a little different. I had the testicle pains. I felt like I had to go all the time. Even after I went, I felt sensations like there was still pee there.
Feeling like it's like trapped. I had a lot of urgency, feeling like I had to go when I didn't have to go,
Right.
all the time. I had, burning. I had just a lot of pain. It felt like an elephant was sitting on my pelvis all the time, sitting on my bladder. I had tailbone pain. It all radiated. It just started
I said
spreading.
that before you came. I had tailbone pain. Okay, good.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just all over. In that whole area, I had gosh, I don't know. I mean, you could feel that there was tension there. It felt like there was a lot of bracing.
Yeah.
All up in my pelvic floor as like a female, I would say, around my cycle, like getting my period, things would tick up even more. I couldn't, feminine hygiene products and things like that. I was scared to use. Putting anything in there was like, woo, no way. For a while, this is before I knew what was going on. Once I knew what was going on, then it was like, okay, we're not doing that anymore, because that's just fear and avoidance, and that's just keeping this going. But for when I didn't know what was happening and I was diagnosed, with this term, this label of interstitial cystitis, pelvic floor dysfunction, um, I was in fear, and I was avoiding all kinds of stuff like that, avoiding, intercourse, avoiding anything that could flare it or make it worse, avoiding exercise, avoiding, sit-ups, squats, push-ups, anything that was like physical and active that could engage those muscles, was like a hard no for a while there. Um, but yeah,
Were
it
you
was
Did
constant
you
for
have
me. It was,
challenges pooping at all? Because like
yeah,
I did.
yeah, I would go and it would just flare it up. I'd have pain. I mean, just that whole vicinity, just that,
Yeah.
just like this, area, like all here, everywhere, front, back, center, left, right, all
Yeah.
kinds of sensations. And yeah, it was challenging
Did you
for sure.
have when I looked in the Reddit, there's a lot of people that talk about that they had to avoid certain foods, certain
Yep.
things, trigger things um, that would bring it on, or it would make it worse. Did you have any that you know of off by hand?
Uh, I know about these groups because in the beginning I was in these toxic groups where people were talking about, all the things. And I would hear, yeah, well, I mean, when I got diagnosed, I was told you can't eat spicy foods, you can't have coffee, you can't
Yeah.
eat chocolate, no alcohol, like all the good stuff was
All right.
not allowed, right? And I was told it would flare me. So at that
Right.
point, I hadn't made any correlation with food until I had a doctor tell me it was potentially related to the diet that could make it worse. So that
Why
was
did
like
they
a
think?
big.
Why did they think eating maybe chili or eating celery would affect your pelvic floor? How does that? How do they put that together?
Well, I think that they just are assuming that it's all inflammation. And so then they think of all these foods that could be inflammatory. And you think about the digestive tract. And well, if you're eating food, it's going through your digestion, but it's also filtering out, and any liquids are going through your bladder. So anything spicy or anything, that's really strong, there was.
Well, I could see that some of these foods I've heard, and I could understand when they eat this food, this happens. There's a reaction, right? Like, let's say when we're doing this mind body space, you have a stressful week because you get an argument with your dad or something happens. All of a sudden, it triggers it. Food, anything, and
Yeah,
it's like, well, it's not the food.
no.
It's the it's
It's
the
your
nervous system.
perception of the food. It's
Yeah.
it's what the brain is always gonna do, is it's gonna try to make meaning of it. So why is this happening? And it's gonna try to figure it out because it doesn't want uncertainty. And if it can solve it, now we can avoid it. Like, it's all just part of that path of
I think it's
avoidance,
just
really.
when you're in that survival state and you could be ruminating about your shoulder pain, and all
Mhm.
of a sudden your bladder hurts because you're activated. Your nervous system's starting to right. You're feeding the fire. It started the survival state starts to come up, and it translates to the pelvic floor.
Mhm.
So for me, gut food reaction, right? Let's say I had a stressful week. All of a sudden, I lose 5 foods, and I'm having um, bloody diarrhea, pooping like crazy. Like any symptom with anybody that's in this journey, right? You have a stressful week, or Of course, no stressful week. It's just trying to get your attention, of course. That's a classic.
Yeah. I think like for me, there were correlations between certain triggers in my life, emotional triggers, and where the sensation would be showing up in my body. So for me, and I've seen this with a lot of women that I've spoken to over the years or helped,
Mhm.
um, to get curious about intimacy because in your intimate relationships, um, the brain could be perceiving a threat, could be perceiving something as, not safe. Even if you have a healthy relationship, you could be thinking, if you've had previous relationships that were, hurtful, there could just be a part of you that's afraid of getting close again. And, having pain in this area is a really, really great way to protect you from getting close and intimate with somebody because now
Yeah.
you can't. Now you have a reason to say no. Now so
Mm.
I've seen that. I'm not saying that's the, case for everybody, but that's definitely a common theme I've seen with it. Particularly in women. I mean, most women, unfortunately, like have experienced some sort of sexual trauma or harassment or assault.
That's what I heard.
Um,
That's the one I heard.
and
And
so,
it
yeah, I
it
think that's why it's
races. It's
more
like a
common. Yeah,
protective mechanism.
and it's more common in women. Men get it too,
Yeah.
obviously, you did too, but I think that's part of why it's more common in women because more women experience,
Right.
um, threat and danger in that way,
Right. And I think
unfortunately.
it is. It could be a good number that have had that happen, but it doesn't necessarily because some people like I've never had that. Maybe there's something that's
Yeah.
hidden. I gotta find. Maybe I gotta. But that doesn't necessarily mean
No,
you
it's
were
not like a criteria, I
right.
mean, there's no, like, specific criteria to get a sensation anywhere in your body that you had to have experienced this or that. It's really what's gonna get your attention, you know?
1,000%. Like when people say, well, psoriasis is linked to anger or gut problems are led to this emotion, that emotion. And maybe there are, you might see the patterns, but not necessarily it'll use whatever symptom it can to get your attention. Whoever you're, for me, I wasn't abused, but right. For me, it could have been anger. Somebody else, it could have been whatever, it's a unique meaning for them individually.
Yeah.
I think that's where it, yeah, kind of translates, and that's where you kind of find out how the meeting kind of affects you because it's you, right? It's unique to you, and it'll use
Yeah.
whatever it can to get your attention. For some people, a pelvic floor pain is like, meh, my dizziness is driving me crazy, but
Mhm.
somebody else like, I wish I had dizziness, right? It
Mhm.
depends.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think you have to dig and it's not like, oh, you gotta find, like, the actual very thing that caused it. I mean, this is
Hmm.
where as you get into doing the work and learning how to, like, allow what's there, drop resistance, stop avoidance behaviors, all that stuff, like, whatever was underneath it is gonna come through. Um, you
So let's
know
talk about what you did do that didn't work at first.
Oh my god. What didn't I do? I tried everything. Okay, I probably tried let's talk about the diets. Paleo, and these are all things I learned from support groups, all these women, well, if I eat this, it flares me, but if I don't, and I even to say, like, I remember when I got diagnosed, the urologist who diagnosed me said, well, it's a funny thing because, some people I have patients who could eat chocolate and they're fine, but if they drink red wine, they flare. But then I have patients who could drink red wine and they're fine, and they eat chocolate, they flare. And I just remember looking at her like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, so how do I figure that out? I just have to go, like, try things, and that's kinda what I was doing, and then I joined all these support groups, and, there were women in there who were like, "You have to eat paleo. That is the way, and here's why, and blah, blah, blah," all these things about, like, if you do that, um, you're not eating the nightshades or, whatever, like, avoid
Mhm.
this thing and avoid that, and here's why, and they would kinda, like, spew some kind of, like, BS science around it to me, and so I would try these things, and, nothing improved when I did that. In fact, a lot of times I would feel worse when I would do that, and I know some people do the diets, and they do feel some relief, but that's a placebo. So that's
Yeah.
because you really think that your brain gets this temporary message of safety of like, well, we've solved the problem. My brain wasn't my brain was getting more of the message of danger, that something's wrong because we have to avoid all these things, which is what's going to happen to
Or
everybody.
I think they indirectly gave themselves a little relief from the allostatic load.
Yeah.
Like the carnivore diet, I know it's not the cure, but it was a coping mechanism. So it did work for a bit, but eventually, if you come off it, the symptoms come back. So you didn't get
Yeah.
to the root of the
It's not
programming,
the root. Yeah, it's not the
right?
root. So
Like
if you
today,
that's what you feel like you need to do right now, and it is sort of
yeah,
keeping you a little bit more level, okay, but like
yeah,
you're gonna eventually have to start facing the food and you're gonna have to start exposing yourself to it. So I tried paleo, I tried like an alkaline diet, like a
right.
non-inflammatory. I tried hormone replacement therapy. I tried no oxalates. That was another one. Don't eat anything with oxalates, which is like I mean, I think I got down to like 6 foods. I remember there was a period of time where all I was eating was like white rice, chicken that was just boiled, um, peas or something. I don't know. There was like only certain vegetables that were like lower oxalate. So I lost all this weight because I wasn't getting nutrients, which is now just increasing the allostatic load because now your system is like not being properly nourished, which is going to just like up that threat response even more. So it's a
Yeah.
cycle you get in, And then I tried pelvic floor physical therapy, which for me was also horrendous and painful. And I would leave there flared up
Did
because
you use like a zapping tool?
no, no, for me as a female, it was a lot of internal work, like going
Oh,
up, inserting with fingers and things like that, and moving
yeah, yeah.
around and pushing on certain muscles
Oh
within my
no, yeah.
pelvic floor. Um,
But did you hear
yeah.
about those things that they use? These you had to relearn the pelvic floor had to relearn how to communicate with the brain, so they put these wand in there that would have these pulsating
Mm,
electrical shocks.
no.
Thank God I didn't do that.
Yeah, no, the options that were presented to me by the doctor was, oh, we can, numb the lining of your bladder with lidocaine. We can go do this exploratory thing. And um, but then when I looked at the statistics of like how much that helped, it was very low. In
Yeah.
fact, a lot of women who had these procedures done got worse, which is no wonder because it was just increasing fear. I mean, it was just so too much focus on the body. It was too, like you're trying to treat a physical symptom with a physical solution when the problem isn't physical. So
Right.
it just increased everything for me when I did anything physical.
Did
Um,
you do some coping mechanisms though that did kind of help, like stretches or anything
yeah.
like that?
Yeah. I remember I read some book about like it might have been a physical therapist and it was all about, she had this whole protocol. You got to go walk for 30 minutes to get like blood pumping and, get more blood to the area. Then you got to come home and you have to do like 30 minutes of stretching and it's these very specific stretches. And I would do this and it would help a little bit,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
but
believe it.
I think it was looking back, yeah, movement is good. I think yeah,
Well,
but
you're burning
it
some
was
of that fight or flight energy, that cortisol, so it might
yeah.
help relax a little bit, right?
I think it also gave me this like illusion of control. Like I'm in charge. I know
Yeah.
what to do. I'm going to beat this thing.
Hmm.
And so I would get temporary relief, but I would say it was like 20% relief. Like it was not worth like all of the effort that I was putting in. And I would have to do it 3 times a day. So it was like
Oh,
it was a lot of hours in my day of like just doing this. Um, and then it would slowly kind of get louder again, and then I'd have to go do it again, and so, no, it was just managing but that was a coping mechanism that I did,
yeah.
not for too long, I think that was like a month, and right I think around that time is I found the Curable app and I started getting educated on what was actually going on, and then it was like, "Oh, like,
Yeah.
I need to stop all this shit," like, this is not helping me.
Um, so you did the coping mechanisms here and there, and then how did you get into the mind body aspect of it?
Well, it started with Curable. I was in a Facebook group, one of those ones that I was telling you about with all these people with this diagnoses,
Mhm.
um and by the way, some of the stuff in there that people were doing, like, or people are probably still doing to try to get better it's wild. Like, it's
Yeah.
wild. I mean, people were going and getting, like, cavity fillings removed from their mouth because they thought that it was the metal that was
Oh
making their
yeah.
system toxic and then causing their bladder to hurt. And I'm like, whoa, like, I mean, people were just like reaching so far for anything possible. I mean, it was just
Well, they're
like a,
probably doing detoxes and shit too.
oh yeah, tons of that. Um, it was really like the blind leading the blind in there, like people didn't, it was all just everybody panicked and, you know, I think co-dysregulating in fear. But
Mm.
um so in that group though, that's one good thing that came out of that group was somebody posted a comment on something, and they said, "Oh, there's this app called Curable. You should check it out. It's really interesting and it talks about pain and the brain." And I just remember reading that comment and being kind of pissed. Like I was like, "What the hell are you talking about? The brain and
Yeah.
pain, and what are you saying, it's all in your head?" Like, and I went and looked at the app, not because I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna help me," but I kind of went to it like out of curiosity, but like in an angry way. Like I wanted
Mm.
to go get mad and like see this app that was gonna gaslight me. And then I started listening to it, and like immediately I was schooled, like, on what was actually happening. I started learning about the brain and pain and the science behind it and how this all works. And I just started binging it. And within a week of starting to work through the education, just the education alone,
Yeah.
like, helped my brain feel safe enough to where for the first time in 2 years, in that first week of going into the app, I had symptoms dramatically reduce and even go away almost, like, and I
Mm.
just and that was, for me, very fortunate because it was evidence that this is the way, like, this is my brain, because this is the only thing I had done in those 2 years that actually created some kind of noticeable difference for me, that was had nothing to do with me touching that part of my body, eating, consuming. It was all just me learning. And so then it
Yeah.
was like, okay, there is definitely some kind of connection happening here. Of course it came back. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I wasn't like a book cure. I wasn't somebody, there are people who experience that. They read it and it's like, woohoo, they're that goes, but usually something else comes. For me, it came back, and then it was like, okay, now I have to do the real work. Like, I need to keep going with this. Like, I have the
Mhm.
education, but now I actually have to implement what I'm learning, which is the part that takes time because you're changing your behaviors and your patterns, and you're having to, yeah, like, change your response to what's happening based on the education. Like, the education's fundamental. So the work that I
Yeah.
did was a lot of curable at first. I read a lot about Dr. Schubiner and his book. I kind of worked through that a little bit. Then I discovered Nicole Saxon. I started doing journal speak. I did that daily for about 6 months to start getting into my emotions,
Mhm.
um, and seeing what was there. And yeah, and I would say within 6 months of that, after that, I was probably like 90% better.
Mhm.
But then I started getting the symptom imperative, and I started getting like fibromyalgia and like other things started to kind of come in. And I had to
Right.
then sort of recognize, like, okay, um, my brain's getting creative now because my fear of this other thing is like, really dwindling away. And so now it's, showing me something else. And so that, at first you get a new symptom, like it definitely can do that. So it gets you kind of in your head
Were you
again.
confused?
Yeah.
Were you confused
Well,
about it?
I mean, the timing of it happened like 2 weeks after my dog passed away, and so it made
Oh.
sense that it was like, okay, there's all this grief, and I don't think I was really processing the grief. Like, I remember thinking I should be crying more than I am, and it was really hard, but um instead I just was trying to distract myself from the grief. I remember like remodeling my kitchen after she died,
Ooh,
because
yeah.
it was like, ooh,
Okay.
like we need to change something in the house now, because like I can't be reminded of her. So like, let me just put my focus over here now. So I was still not at a point in my recovery where I was like really allowing and leaning into everything. And so yeah, I just started feeling like I had the flu, and those kinds of symptoms started coming in, and then it was like, took me a little time to discover that that was the same thing, just different presentation, but same root thing.
Right. Yeah.
So
So how
yeah.
long would you say that did you have? Well, did you get to 100%, and how long did it stay at 100%, or did it ever come back?
Yeah, it's never linear. I mean, at least not for me or anyone I've spoken to that's been on this journey. Like there were times where it would kind of go for a couple days, and then it'd be come back, and then it would, varying intensities. But overall, like if you looked at the big picture, it was just fading out and getting less intense and less often. And then I would say like I went a good year and a half, 2 years without even a twinge, maybe a twinge here and there, but yeah,
Nice.
like overall just pretty much resolved.
Right.
And since then, same thing. Like, I mean, this was for me like 6 years ago. So
Okay.
to today, like I mean, I've had a twinge here and there, but I always know what it is and I know why. I know how to respond. I know that there's
Yeah.
something emotional or some kind of stress going on. I almost always know for me that it's tied to something relationally, that I need to maybe communicate or look at in myself. Um, and yeah, like I hadn't actually had anything come up with this for quite some time. Maybe it, like it, I think the last time I even had a twinge of it was a year ago. I got a UTI. And do you remember that?
Yeah. You didn't
I
know
was
what it
so
was.
confused. I
You're
was
like, is
like,
it UTI? Is it my pelvic floor? Is it?
well, it'd been so long, and it was like, wow, this is really uncomfortable. Um,
But
but
they
I was,
tested it and they said they couldn't find anything. Well, they
yeah,
did only a little, but
yeah.
it was
So then I
confusing.
was like, oh, it's just a flare. I guess I'm just having like a really big flare, and I hadn't had one in so long, and so I was treating it like a flare for like a week. And then it just was like progressing to to like like a 8 or 9 out of 10. And then I'm like, all right, like I think I need to go to urgent care. Like this is next level. I don't even remember it being like this, yeah, in so long. And I better just double check. I probably should have sooner than I did. Um, and
You
by
took the
then,
antibiotics, right?
yeah, yeah.
Right. And
So
then that cleared. And I remember, I'm like, just so you know, you took antibiotics, you might have a wave of new symptoms coming in a week or so. And then you did, and you forgot you took the antibiotics, I think. And you're like, oh, fuck. And it kind of, I think it gave you a little relief because you're like, oh, that's normal. Yeah, fuck. Because the
yeah.
antibiotics, they put stress on the body,
Oh,
of
yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, there was an uptick in anxiety for me when I was on that antibiotic. I remember I
Yeah.
started having, like, panic attacks, and I hadn't had panic attack in a while either, and I was like, "What's" and but you had told me, like, "Hey, that"
Get
it's just
ready.
that allostatic load. But,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that was the last time I really had a twinge. It was, like, well over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, and then, funny enough, just a couple of days ago, I had a little teeny flare of this, and I hadn't in so long. But I knew I was gonna be coming on your channel soon and telling my story, and this is, again, just it's just incredible how, like, strong and powerful our brains are, because even just knowing, "Okay, this is a part of your story, and you're gonna be talking about this soon," like,
Build up.
it was like, "Ooh, let's bring in some of that old neurology and kinda remind you what that was like," because we're gonna be focusing on it for a little bit, again.
Yeah.
But again,
Which
I knew
is
what it is. I knew what
like
it was.
today, you mentioned like, well, if I'm going to be talking about pelvic floor pain, well, I'm taking the risk that it might come back. And then we're like,
Yeah.
well, then I guess you need to talk about it then.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, and it's those same kind of, you learn, like, don't talk about the symptoms, don't give it all that
Yeah.
attention, all that focus. But I also know that, like, I've with something like this, I know what to do, and I had something come back a couple days ago that hadn't in so long, and it real quick worked through me. Like, it didn't take more than a
It
day
almost
of
gives you
me just
reassurance when it's there because
yeah.
you know what to do. You're like, thank God you're here. I'd rather have you here than something else that I don't want to deal with.
Well, and
You know
this
what I
is
mean?
something I think that happens a lot in recovery is people think like, "Oh, you're only recovered when you're fully symptom free forever." And it's like, well, no, 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 no. Like we're human beings. Okay. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna get a headache here and there, or a stomach ache, or a resurgence of a flare of something. Um, but the difference now is we know how to respond, we know what it is, and it's a message that something is going on in our internal emotional world and that something might be a little out of alignment. And so if you can just see that, I mean, for me, I knew this last time, like, why? Like, as soon as it was there, I even said to a friend, like, "Hey, I think this is what's going on, This is why this just popped up, even though it's been gone for so long." And I knew what I kind of needed to do, and now I've been able to move forward, and it's okay. Somebody's asking about pudendal neuralgia. I get that question a lot. Um, I never officially got a diagnosis like that. I didn't explore that as a diagnosis, um, because I didn't know about it. Like, I got diagnosed with interstitial cystitis and, like, the pelvic floor dysfunction. Um, I think I went all in with my body at that point. If I had explored that and gone down that path, for all I know, I could have been diagnosed with something like that. The way that the symptoms I had, the pain that I had, presented very similarly to what I learned about PN and how it feels. But I didn't want another label. I
Yeah.
knew that I started seeing the gaps in the evidence. Like there's ways the pain behaves that shows that it's neuroplastic, which means it's just generated by the brain from perceived danger. And if it's something that comes and goes, if it's only, it's worse at certain times of the day, like all this stuff you can find from some of these experts like Alan Gordon and Howard Schubiner, and just look at their criteria for pain being neuroplastic. And you know, it, but you kind of got to go all in because the doubt and thinking, well, what if it's this? Well, and that I've seen that diagnosis be a tricky one for women. Like but I've also seen a lot of success stories of women who had that diagnosis who are completely pain free. So that's all you need to know. Like once you know
Yeah.
that there are a few people out there who got that diagnosis as well and they're fine today, like they don't have
Grab
that
onto
symptom
that.
anymore, like there you
Yeah.
go. That is like if your body isn't giving you breaks from that sensation, evidence from other people who it is because who had that
Yeah.
diagnosis. That just shows maybe your brain isn't letting go enough yet to kind of give you that evidence, but as you go on the path of doing this work, you will start to see the holes. You'll start
Yeah.
to see things move around. You probably already are. I guarantee you that is not your only symptom if you say you
No.
have
Yeah.
PN. Like, and it's just the fact that you probably have other symptoms and sensations, and when another symptom is flaring, does the PN symptom get a little bit lighter? Does it not? Is it not as loud? And because this is loud now, like, there you go. That's
Right.
evidence too,
It's
but
also like, what do you focus on? Are you going down the rabbit holes? Are you still, getting sucked into the researching and the Googling? There's a lot of things that people have to change when you're going, if you're going to go mind body, you can't be wishy-washy. You got to do the work every day. You got to make sure you're not,
yeah,
you do the research and adding more ligers into the room.
yeah, yep.
So yeah, so that's great. So for me, I also get upticks here and there of symptoms. I think pelvic floor pain maybe a couple of weeks ago, but it was like a hint of a bladder pain a little bit, and I'm like, okay, what's going on?
Exactly. See,
Yeah,
that's your
mm,
response, right? Like,
yeah,
now it's like there's no panic
right, yeah, no,
when I feel something like that, maybe twinge once in a while. It's yeah, the fear is not really there, I might some this last, a few days ago, this kind of twinge came after so long, and I did it kind of at first have a couple thoughts of like, "Oh, shit, like, am I gonna have to be working on this again? But then I noticed that too. And I was like, ah, okay, like there's the thought that kind of went with the thing. And then it was just
Yeah.
like, and I knew kind of how to even respond to that response. And, and today I'm fine. So, yeah.
But yeah, like you mentioned earlier, the difference is we're not going to be, stuck in this chronic state where the symptoms start to pile up. Now we're going to be able to move with it, feel the feelings, allow it, and kind of like a cork in water. When before things started to build up and we got sicker and sicker and it just ruined our lives. Now it's like, okay, thank you for letting me know, right? I got to make some changes and I'm going to move through it and feel what needs to be there and it'll shift when it's ready, type of thing. So I thought today we would do maybe check what other people are doing. I'm going to share my screen, and if I fuck it up, let me know if you see something that doesn't make sense. And we're going to try to see if we can. Let's go Reddit. Okay, sure. Let's my entire screen. Let's see what happens when I do.
We're going into some of the bad neighborhoods.
Yeah. We'll see. Okay, so that's doing that. Do you see this?
I see it.
Oh, is it a picture of a bladder? Do you see the picture of a bladder?
Yeah.
I don't know if you
I see the woman and the red light on her
good
area and how she just looks so awful. And this is so comforting if you're going to the doctor, right?
Right. Okay. All right. And then here's the possible causes, right? They could include bladder trauma. Some of these are true, right? But not one mention about anything mind, body, or stress, pelvic muscle dysfunction, spinal, genetics, allergy, like
allergy.
Yeah. See what I mean? It could be the tipping point, but it's not the thing. It's not
yeah.
it's not the.
See, well, and here's the thing, though. All these things, even if they're saying like, "Oh, here's some possible causes," but what's causing that? I mean, these are all just sort of like, "Oh, pelvic floor muscle dysfunction." Well, why? Why are the muscles dysfunctioning?
Yeah.
The lining of the urinary bladder is
irritated,
defective. Why?
Why
is it defective? Yeah. Overstretching, inflammation. It's sort of it's like a dartboard and they're throwing the darts and it's all going like off the board, but they're just trying to get the target. But the target is the mind. So they're like, again, like, okay, if you want to argue and say the muscles are dysfunctional, what is causing the muscles to become dysfunctional?
They'll say, well, it's SIBO or it's your gut. You have a gut issue. That's why you have brain fog. That's why you have the pelvic floor plate. It's like, well, why? You're not really saying anything. You're just throwing more shit at it.
Yeah, I mean, all of these are kind of like nothing burger reasons. It's sort of like it's it's like a more uncertainty and more. Okay, the problem is bladder pain. Okay, here's all the possible causes, and now we're just calling it this, and this, but it didn't get you anywhere. You're still in this circle. You're not getting any solutions. You're just feeling like, oh, it's just going to put you down further rabbit holes.
Then the treatments here are some of the symptomatic treatment. No FDA approved cure at this time. No, okay. Avoid triggers.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's. But what happens if you have the trigger that it comes back? So that's not a cure, really. That's not. Maybe they're not claiming it's a cure.
No, it's just a shrink your world, shrink your life.
Almiron, $892 without insurance.
I don't even know what that is, but it could be. It could be some kind of numbing the bladder lining, perhaps, which is, again, not a solution. It's just a desperate attempt to
commonly used to relieve bladder discomfort, pain in people with.
Some medication, maybe. I actually tried one of those medications. I forget what it was called, but it turned your pee blue.
Oh, wow.
it didn't help me. Um, I know some women it did help them temporarily, but it's
Yeah.
like got side effects and just more. You're just throwing more stuff in there. You don't need to.
Supplements, heat. So these are just coping mechanisms for
Yeah, that's not
they're
really
not real.
treatment. That title slide shouldn't be treatment. It should be coping mechanisms that don't work.
Yeah. What else is there? Did I exercise, yoga? Okay, stress. Okay, fine. A little
Oh,
bit of,
yay.
you know what I mean? The yoga. Well, why is the yoga working? Well, it's kind of, bringing in some safety, some relaxation. Okay, and it's like at the bottom of the fucking list.
Yeah. And it's not even really giving you
Right.
any information. Like stress reduction, I mean, look, I have a stressful life. I have a 13-year-old daughter. Like, I have things in my life that are stressful. I can't like reduce that. I can only change how I respond to that, which will reduce it. So
When I
stress
think about a
reduction.
stressful life, I think about the person working at a desk job, right? Oh, they're just the financial, all the that's, but it's not that. It's fucking, it's such a big broad term, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, let's check out. Well, first of all, I want to see if I can do this better because I don't know if we can see our faces. Um, Let me reshare. Okay, why is this not? And also, we're in a retrograde, so things might get all fucked up. Bear with me. Um,
Whoa. Yeah.
okay, how do you?
There's like a tunnel of screens right now showing.
I know, right? Okay, hold on. Where's the? Can't.
This is
Okay,
like the
so
vortex of like Reddit, and this is like a good visual metaphor that I'm seeing right now of like the rabbit holes
what's
that
that?
go
What's that
down.
movie with
The
Matthew
Matrix?
McConaughey?
Oh, I don't
When
know.
he's behind his daughter's room and he's in a different he's like he sees her in the other room, he's in a different time. I don't know, you gotta see it. It's pretty, I don't get it though, but hold on, let's share something
Oh,
else
was
here.
that
I'm gonna,
Interstellar or something?
yeah, that's it. Okay, let's see, pelvic floor cure, share. Let's see. Oh, my dogs want to go up soon. Okay.
Mysterious cure after 2 years of excruciating pain.
Yeah, let me hit it up. Okay, I'll start reading. I'll get to the point. Okay, I suffered for 2.5 years. I will try to make this short and to the point. So they talk about everything they had. First thing of my own experimenting, which I found that exacerbated this and made my pain worse, was alcohol. Okay, sex. Okay, I can see it because there might be something associated with that. Plastic, you're dealing with pain. There's a lot of pressure and constipation, pooing, a lot of runny poos. This was a massive trigger. Well, yeah. Pelvic floor specialist. Okay, taught how to relax my muscles down there. This was done with a doctor's finger in my anus, massaging eternally. I had sudden relief even the day after. I couldn't believe it. She told me to buy a wand and start doing it myself. I did it every day, 10 minutes a day ish. Within months, my pain was completely gone. This had nothing to do with I can never say that, prostatis. It was my pelvic floor area extremely tight, and my symptoms were tight muscles causing issues. So it's not the muscles causing, but they think it is. Alcohol, sex, constipation were things that made my problems worse. Don't be afraid to go to a pelvic floor specialist. Don't be afraid to buy a wand and stick it up your bum. Okay. Looking back at how miserable I was, it was all a phase I went through. And so it's a coping mechanism that they used.
Yeah, like first off, what I would be curious to know what symptom took its place now then. I think it's probably a combo of like placebo, but also perhaps like learning to relax and learning how to kind of like let go. There might have been something in there that was helping them release some fear.
That's it.
Um, by okay, if I put this thing up here and I'm getting the muscles to relax, If they're focusing on relaxing the muscles, maybe there's something about some internal work that they're sort of doing on fear and relaxing. Um, but
Or maybe there was a stressful situation that got resolved during that
yeah,
time.
I mean, you don't know, right? That's what's so hard is like you
Yeah.
see these things online and it's like you just want to talk to this person and ask them the questions like what was going on in your emotional world? What was going on in your life at the time? Did you just leave like some kind of job where you hated your boss or what what else was going on, you know? But also how are you feeling now? What else do you you know, how's your body feeling now? Oh, well, you know, this person for all we know could be saying that's gone, but then, you know, they have a migraine every couple days now or, you know,
Here's another one. Oh, that's not the right one. I got to get better at this. Okay, no. Okay. There was one where they were talking about what they did is they started working out and everything went away, right? So we can kind of see the link to that because they're focused on other things and not focused on the pain,
yeah.
and they're kind of, it's a way to also bring in safety. You're elevating in a way you feel good. You're doing something. They might not be working on their emotions or allowing as much, but it could be, in a way, it's a coping mechanism, but it can bring
Yeah.
relief.
When you work out and you exercise, like you it brings you back into your body and you're starting to feel other things in your body. So you're probably naturally like leaning into other sensations, other positive or even the sensation of feeling sore, which is getting your focus off of the sensation of the pain, which is the problem because with all chronic conditions, it's a preoccupation problem. Like the pain isn't the problem, it's your preoccupation with the pain. So if you're moving from focusing, you know, when you start moving your body and you start exercising, you're going to start feeling other things in your body. You're going to start focusing on other things and you're focusing on getting back to life a little bit more. There's some empowerment that starts happening when you exercise and move your body, which feels, those are, like you said, elevating. It releases endorphins. But so they don't know maybe like why it helped them, but
Yeah.
it was part of the mind body work that we do, which is like getting back to activity, getting back to living your life, moving your body, not being in
Oh, yeah.
fear. And,
Like,
you know,
somebody might go walk and they go, all my symptoms are gone, but they don't really know why. But the walk
yeah.
is great. It grounds them again,
Yeah. And that
right?
kind of stuff happens all the time. Like I've met people in my life who have told me like they had a period of time where they were dealing with like some kind of pain or some kind of symptom and they didn't even know about mind body and then it just like went away. And it's like
Yeah.
they don't know that they actually in a way like kind of did the work without knowing they were doing the work because they
Yeah.
started, you know, oh well I went on vacation and then I did this and oh I joined this really cool club and I started connecting with these other people and then like I don't know it just like went away or I don't really know why it went away. That's a lot of times what I'll hear or they think
Or a new
it was because of
relationship,
this. Yeah. Or they
a
changed
fresh,
their
good
job or
relationship.
you know something yeah and they don't really know um I mean, my sister actually started having pain years ago,
Yeah.
in her hips, and she was in this really stressful job that was super demanding, and there was a lot of pressure, and I knew. I was like, "Ooh, you should maybe start looking at your emotional world and your stress load and stuff like that," and, she kinda was starting to think about doing that because she was getting desperate, but then she just ended up deciding, like, "This job isn't worth it, I'm leaving this job," and then all of her pain went away. So I was like, "Okay," like, you know, I guess you
It
don't
worked
need to go
its way
start
out.
doing this work because you just you got back into alignment, you know, with your
Yeah.
life. So
Well,
you're
look
all
at our
good.
lives. When you look back, when we didn't know things, I'm sure before this perfect storm that you had and I had other little perfect storms. And now when I look back, they resolved and they came up, and you can kind of link to the things that happened in your life. And when those things passed, things went away, and then new things came. And then maybe not 75 symptoms, but one or two. And then you kind of see, wow, this makes sense. You see the patterns, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy how that works. Alrighty. I think, is there any other ones that I saw? 7-year-old got this nasty. Okay, okay. Here's one. I don't know. Are you seeing this? What I'm seeing? Why are so
No.
many people getting this disease? Okay, let me reshare. Hopefully, I can find. You know what? I'm gonna. delete the ones that I'm not using so that I don't get confused. Boom. All right. So here's a question somebody had. Why are so many people getting this? They call it a disease, right? Well, dis-ease, I could see, but not so much of a, something that's like the generalized meaning of a disease. My Eurogen, I can never say that, has been working with Interstitial Society since 1994, and he says the same thing. No idea. I wonder if it's because of food quality getting worse or something. So there's one view of it. I know there's a ton of subtypes. I think it's multifaceted, but I think primarily it's hormonal. There's another one. Just my guess. Other major factors being food. So I think it's a lot of tipping points, right? And they get the blame. Food, environment, lifestyle. We are all far stressed. Here we go. This person's kind of getting it. Undernourished, underexercised, overexposed. Yep. To things we shouldn't be. So this is where I think a lot of the things they get the blame. It's like the last drop in the allostatic load brought the symptom, and that last thing got the blame. But it wasn't that last thing. It was just the tipping point that broke the camel's toe in a way.
Yeah, and these are all just people guessing, It's like,
Yeah.
and they're not totally far off some of this stuff. Like,
Right.
it's just there's this big missing link between all of it. Because they don't have the education yet on how the brain and the body, communicate with these signals, these alarms.
Yeah. And it's like, it makes sense, but it's almost like, oh, that's too easy of an answer. Give me something complicated, because then my brain will latch onto that. If you tell them, oh, it's just your brain, you got to recalibrate and then reprogram. Yeah, okay, you sound like a hippie. Yeah, this is right. That's not complicated enough. Give me something that's crazy. Tell me it's my mitochondria. Tell me it's my motherfucker gene, or my I have gut issues.
I think that happens because the brain wants so bad for it to make sense, because that's going to help somebody. They're all trying to feel safer. And with how loud the symptom could be, it almost feels like, well, the more complicated the explanation is, that sort of matches the intensity of what I'm feeling. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's interesting that, yeah, people kind of are more likely. Well, and also I think people will more easily believe things like if they sound very scientific, like the mitochondria and
Yeah.
all these, because that's just how we're conditioned in the medical world. I mean, all of us have been, if you've been brought up in any kind of, modern civilization, like this is the language that we're used to hearing now if we talk about health.
Yeah.
So, that's familiar to them, and the
Yeah,
maybe
I
like
remember.
familiar.
Well, if you go into some of these groups, you get banned. If you tell them, okay, I have a solution. It's you take these certain supplements every Tuesday, Thursday. You skip a leap year. Make sure you never, miss those supplements that are dated, and you got to make sure that you detox and do the special protocol. And you will only heal 60%, not fully. That's impossible. That's a joke. 60%. And people they're more willing to latch on to the 60% bullshit than if you're to go, oh no, you can fully recover, no supplements and that no protocols. That's it. You just got to do some mind body work here and there, but that's hard. But everything else, you can fully have your life back. They're like, no, give me the guy with the 60% thing, and here's my money. Like they want it complicated. They want it because it seems more like the brain can latch onto that. It's more realistic. It fits the.
Yeah, and I think it also is less. I think it can feel scary to have hope, because if it doesn't work, then you're gonna get your hopes up, and then but like if your hopes only got up to like 60%, I could handle it if I didn't get to that 60%. But like if I got my hopes
Safer.
up that like this 100% can be resolved for me, and then it doesn't, like that could feel too devastating,
Yeah, I think it is a safety thing. We're willing to test the waters out because it's safe enough to believe. The belief of the complication of that is brings in safety.
Yeah.
The the belief of, oh, you can fully recover doesn't give me safety. It gives me more doubt, and that's dangerous. I'm not going to that.
Mm-hmm.
So the brain will fucking play tricks on you all over the place.
It's all like different forms of resistance, really. But at the same time, the
Yeah.
brain is like wanting certainty and safety so badly, but it's you're now in this cycle where it's actually like, I don't know, it's ironic because it's not actually giving you safety to be going down all these rabbit holes. It's just keeping you in the cycle.
If you were to give anybody advice dealing with pelvic floor pain, especially the females out there, and they're just getting into this mind body thing,
Mm-hmm.
you're the first person that they were scrolling, they see you. What would you tell them to help them on their journey?
Well, first off, just that this is something that 100% can be better, can go away. And you can recover from it. It's not an incurable condition. Turn your back to the main medical model with this because they don't have answers. And just because they don't have answers doesn't mean that there aren't answers to it. Like, it's just that they don't have those solutions. But there are solutions, and there's so many people who have recovered from this, including me. I have personally worked with and coached and helped tons of women get better from this. When I first got better, when I first kind of was dealing with this and getting into the mind body space, there weren't a lot of cases of this being talked about in the mind body space. Like, everyone wanted to know, can you heal from IC with a mind body approach? And there were experts out there saying, yes, you can, but there weren't really a lot of success stories yet. This was maybe just 6-7 years ago. And I think, I don't know why that is. This is just evolved. The word is getting out more now. And as the word is getting out more, now there's tons of those stories. I didn't have success stories to look at back when I found out about this. I was like, well, I guess I'm the guinea pig then. I guess I'll see if this works for me because I understand the brain and pain and the science now and how this all works. So, like, I hope I can prove that it is mind body, because I have nothing else to hold on to. I've tried everything else. This is my last option. So, like, I might as well I have nothing to lose. So I'm just going to give it my all and go all in with it. And
but now, fast forward 7 years, now you're like,
oh my gosh, people talk about it all the time. It's like, there's so many stories. It's out there all the time. But when I first recovered, there's one expert in this space who calls me the pelvic pain queen, because I was kind of the first one that came out and was like, here's my story and I got better and this really works, and then I got like so many, I still to this day get like messages from women who listen to me on those podcasts, and I just can't tell you how many people have recovered since learning about this as the way out. And it's talked about more openly now. So if anything, like, if that's like the symptom that you have, in some weird way, horrible way of term to say this, but in some ways you're lucky because there's a lot of success stories around this now. So you just grab onto those, watch some of the success stories, keep showing your brain and gathering that evidence. If you have doubt if this could work for you, everyone felt that way. I did. I was like, I don't know. I didn't really believe it would until it did. It's like the whole way I had doubt. But I just kept going. And you can be totally free from this. You can eat what you want. You can have sex.
That's the thing.
You can
eat what you want. All the shit.
And if you're still avoiding things right now, you just need to slowly start. Everybody's different. Some people, as soon as they learn about this, like I've heard stories of people who they were like, oh, this is, my body's actually okay. My bladder's fine. My pelvic floor is fine. And they just like dive in and, they start eating all the foods and they start having sex. And actually a lot of times, like, those people get better really freaking quick because they're facing the fear really fast. And sometimes they might have like a huge flare, but you kind of have to expect it. Like, hey, it's going to push back.
there is a difference between some things that you can jump in head first,
Yeah,
but compared to some things you can't, like food sensitivities, that takes.
right.
But like with pelvic floor pain, you could technically,
I don't think it has to take a lot of time
yeah,
if you have the willingness. Like your willingness meter needs to be like pretty high to be like, I'm ready to face this and feel whatever the hell it's going to give me, and stand, stand strong in my belief in this, that I am okay. And because yeah, I'm just going to say, like, do what feels better for you. If you are like, no, I'm way too scared to dive all in and start eating all the foods and having sex and doing all the things, you're probably going to be better off incrementally increasing these
yeah,
things slowly and keep working on your response. But I've also seen people who very quickly were able to move out of it when they just went balls to the wall and were like, screw this, like, I'm fine. And they just
yeah,
were less afraid. And there's nothing wrong with being afraid either. If you're too afraid, it's okay. Like, and that's most people. Most people need to go slow. But I have seen stories, like remarkable stories, even with food sensitivities. There's a guy who went and ate McDonald's and had a Big Mac and had Coke and all, and ran out into a field and was like, "Give it to me now, bring me more, let's have the reactions." And nothing happened. And this was after 5 years of hell of reactions to
yeah.
food.
Okay,
So, it's just as soon as you neutralize the fear, that's when the symptoms go away.
yeah.
It's just how quickly can you do that? Most people need time.
Any advice when it comes to things to avoid with certain maybe people in any space that are trying to give you advice? One thing that comes up is avoidance. Anything that you could add to that?
Things to avoid or
No,
to
like some of the messages that you get out there, some of the things that
oh,
you're like, fuck, that's bullshit.
um regarding the pelvic pain stuff, yeah, I mean, anything to do with your diet,
Yeah.
like, is BS. It has
Mhm.
nothing to do with the food. It's not the food. Like, if I could just say one, like, if I could just please, like, look at me right now. It's not the food. Like, your bladder is not hurting because of the food. It's not what you're drinking. That is
Yeah,
the
how does that make
biggest
sense?
hurdle for people, but it's not. It's not even biologically, it's not even physically possible. Like, I've heard of women who they swore that, like, black pepper or something spicy was flaring them, and it was debunked because Howard Schubiner asked somebody once, "Well, when did you eat the spicy thing, and then when did your bladder hurt?" And she says, "Oh, well, within 30 minutes." And he's like, "That's not physically possible that it reached your
Yep.
bladder by now, and the pain's already there." So, like, it's conditioning. It's just you
Well,
believe it
same thing with
is.
IBS. Somebody could put
Yeah.
the food here and you get the stabbing pains. Same shit.
Yeah. So that's the biggest thing I would say is, like, just it's not the food. So just avoiding food. the, avoid the messages, all the things that are telling you to avoid. Like, that's what you need to avoid, is all the messages telling you need to avoid living your life, doing this, doing that, the weight training. I mean, I was told, like, don't lift anything heavy, don't do, god forbid you do some kind of a squat or some kind of, work on your muscles, don't do kegels, all this stuff. And
Oh man, that's horrible. Yeah.
no, like, I'm doing deadlifts and squats, like, all the time, and that was part of my recovery, was actually doing the things I was told by doctors to not do. Ironically, that's what got me better.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
That's it.
I
Just
think we're good.
trust the process.
Yeah. Trust the process. Awesome. Thanks for joining us. We're going to do a special recording tomorrow, which we'll release. I'm not sure when, but it'll be epic. And what is it about? It's about withdrawal from all the crazy medications that people might be on, right?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, guys, get out there and get uncomfortable, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.